Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara, CPA extraordinaire, coming to you live from downtown Bethpage, Long Island, New York, for another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. And again, we're going to be covering the second part in the series of how to answer those dreaded IRS notices. But before I begin, if you watching live, give me a hashtag live. I see I have my my mask supply here, so this will not repel the IRS, uh, but it will supposedly repel. It'll keep you safe from COVID, and I haven't gotten COVID, so thank God for that. But if you're watching live, give me a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. If you have any questions or comments, good, bad, or indifferent, please put them in the chat box. If you're going to do it live, I will try to answer any of your questions and comments. I'd also like to invite you to book a chat with me if you have any questions or comments, if this resonates with you, if you have a certain situation you'd like my input on. Please feel free to go to timewithjoe.com. Please don't book a chat with me just to chat about life and to network. If you want to do that, you're free to go to mastermindwithjoe.com. We meet every Friday at 11:30 a.m. till 1 p.m. on that's Eastern Standard Time. And let's get right to it here, folks, because this is serious business. This is part of the email that I got where the IRS actually claims, and I put that claims to have suspended some of these unfiled return and collection notices. Now, when I say claim, let me get rid of that banner. When I say claim, what I mean by that is, I've learned, especially recently, to not believe everything you hear from the IRS. Not that they don't mean to do what they say, but everything is machine driven now. They these letters come from what they call the ACS unit, automated collection system, which my aunt worked for them for over 20 years. She's retired now, but I do get some interesting information from her about how they work, how they manage their departments, and it's not good. Their managers, basically, there's a revolving door, and you could imagine you're trying to work your way up in an organization and you want to put your mark on it, and it's hard to get a new boss every 12 to 18 months. So her department was sort of like a stepping stone, and that's not how you run a business. That's not how you run any organization. There's got to be some kind of stability. Their computer systems are outdated. I could tell you some stories of stuff that's been happening that defies logic. It sort of tells me that they've been hacked. Okay, something is seriously wrong with their computer system. And yesterday, I went through, and let's go through this again. No, we don't want to do that. The CP80. Now, actually, let's go to the balance due returns, because this is a dreaded notice. You get a bill from the IRS. I'm sure millions and millions of people pay these because they don't have an accountant or somebody to even look at this. They assume that the notice is correct. A lot of times, in fact, I would say most of the time, they're not correct. And if there's penalties on there, there's always a chance that you can get penalties removed if you have what they call reasonable cause. And I will do a whole segment on that. We can't get into it right now, but you could see the first notice that comes out is the code is called CP 501. Okay, and that's the first notice. Then a couple of weeks later, probably I'd say 4 to 6 weeks later, I should know exactly uh, what the time frame is, but I never kept track of it, to be honest with you, because usually if a client gets their first notice, I'm on top of it. If a client forgot to give it to me, or they come as a referral and they already got their second notice, uh, they're saying, "Hey, this is the second time we did you open the first letter? Yo, you owe us money. At least call. You don't call, you don't write. We want to hear from you." And if you still ignore them, you're going to get a notice of intent to levy. And that's serious. That means within 21 days, they're actually going to seize your bank accounts if they know where they are, if you have any investments, basically anything that they know about. And going forward, they're going to know a lot more because the reporting requirements are getting tighter, more stringent, because they want to know, where your money is. Okay. Uh, so what happened recently is a couple of my clients went right to CP 504. They went right to the notice of intent to levy. Now, my clients know when they get any kind of notice, number one, there's two rules. Number one, don't pay them, because if you pay them and you don't owe it, if you don't owe the money, it takes a long time to get it back. There's a lot of time and effort has to be put into trying to get the money back. So you got to weigh the amount that's in question with the time, with your time. So what happened to a couple of my clients was that they skipped over the first two notices and they just got CP 504, notice of intent to levy. And I said, well, what happened? You know that you should, the second rule besides don't pay it is take a picture of it and text it to me so that I know if it's junk mail. A lot of times it's junk mail. People don't know about these codes. They just call, they say they got a letter from the IRS, and I tell them, okay, you got to open it. But what happened was, and it wasn't just me, because I heard through the grapevine, through some groups that I'm in, tax preparer groups, that it happened to a bunch of people. And the only way that happens is if there's a glitch in the system. So they skipped over two notices. I had to, in that case, the only way to deal with them is to get a power of attorney and call them. Professionals have a special hotline. So I have a better chance of getting through than a client. And lo and behold, I called them. My client was nervous because they were about to close on a piece of property, and they were afraid that this this would make it delayed. It's not going to help when the IRS is they're going to seize your bank account. So they were worried, and rightly so. So I called up, and I didn't even have to ask. The agent said, "How about if I just give you a 6-month extension?" So I was flabbergasted. That's if anything, they would give you, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, but 6 months without me even asking, that tells me that something is up. That tells me that something is up. So, like I said in the last segment, so now these notices are notices that the IRS has said that they're not going to be sending. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to send them to everyone, because some of these are required to be sent uh, by law, because there's time limits on how long they have to collect. Okay, believe it or not, the IRS only has 10 years to collect the debt uh, from the time that it becomes due. Now, a lot of time, and that's a story for another time as well, but I have had clients that went the full 10 years. You get a notice saying you do not owe this money anymore, and it's nice. Because people that don't owe that money have financial issues. So let's get down to. So I promised I would talk a little bit about the business notices, and so there's really only two notices that they're going to hold off on: the CP 259 and the CP 959, which is the same thing only in Spanish, and the CP 518 and the Spanish version CP 618. So the first one, the CP 259, is that you haven't filed a return. Okay, there is no record of a return being filed. Now, that doesn't mean that the return hasn't been filed. That means that they don't have a record of it. So sometimes, like this happened to me a couple of times, I would file the return electronically, and it would get stuck in my processor's domain. So it doesn't go directly from me to the IRS. It goes from me to my software provider, and they send it out. I guess what they're doing is they're checking it for errors or whatever. And a couple of times it was my mistake. I didn't push the right button. I thought it was filed. All I did was transmit it, but you have to double check. You have to double check to make sure that it was accepted. So, and another case is if you file a paper return. Some people still file paper returns, and it could have got lost in the mail, or it's sitting on somebody's desk still. There's still millions of returns from 2020 that haven't been processed for one reason or another, and which is the reason why they're holding off on sending these notices out. I guess somebody realized. They said, "Hey, we're sending these notices out. Meanwhile, the return's sitting on somebody's desk because somebody had to send in a paper return." And I would bet, and I'm not a betting man, but I would bet that the bulk of the returns that have not been processed are paper returns or returns that have been amended. Okay, so there's still, like, the last time I heard, they were backlogged about 7 million returns, which, they actually process over 200 million returns every year. So that's a lot of tax returns. It's still not acceptable, uh, especially when this is almost all basically machine driven. Uh, so there's the first notice, CP 259, and then CP 518, which is twice 259. And it's the second notice that, hey, this is the final notice that we didn't get your return. And like I said yesterday, there really are no final notices. It's only final after they say you owe money, and they take it from you. And even then, it's still not final. It's not final until it's actually final. In other words, it is final when your return has been processed, the money has been paid, and the taxpayer agrees on it and the IRS agrees on it. Otherwise, it's not final. That's the truth. So when I hear, if you're getting letters from collection agencies and they're telling you this is the final notice, and you don't pay, well, guess what? You're going to get another notice. So, the answer to this is what you want to do. And just because you're not getting a notice doesn't mean, if you have a tax issue, that you shouldn't be taking care of it. If you owe money, you owe money. If you don't have it, you can do an installment agreement, which is another topic. The topics are endless that we can go through here. But I promise that, it might take years, but I will go through every topic that I can uh, in the order that I think of importance. And right now, these notices are of utmost importance. Uh, and that's it. I was hoping to start doing a deep dive into some of the tax notices, and let me see. Uh, if I can do that, let's see, we're going to share a slide and then I got to upload the slide. And let's see if that's the right one. I can tell you in 1 second it's processing. It's processing. But while we're waiting, folks, so uh, in the next segment of tax notices. Now I can't show you that because I didn't blank out the name and all of that stuff. So this is still confidential. But in the next segment, we're actually going to go into some real tax notices, and I'm going to explain uh, the information that you have to hone in on, what type of letter, the period, the tax form, and the actual issue. Okay, because when you get a notice, there's a lot of pages, and usually there's only one or two that actually matter. And we're going to go into that in detail. There is one comment here. Let me see. Hey, Tim. Yeah, so Tim, you know the rules. Tim's a client. Tim doesn't get any notices. He's been doing this for a long time. If he gets a notice, Tim knows what to do because Bedrock has his back. He knows that. I think he sleeps better at night now, knowing that he's got a go-to person, and that's important, folks. You know, millions of businesses, probably tens of millions. There's only 30 million businesses in the USA, and over 25 million are still classified as sole proprietors. And that tells me that they don't have the professional advice that they need, because if you've been following me, you know, Tim knows that you want to do business as an S corp for the most part. If you have an active business, if you're a consultant, a web designer, an accountant, uh, even a doctor, you want to have an S corp. You want to be doing an S corp, and I actually wrote a book about it. It's called Your Amazing Itty Bitty S corp book. Everything you wanted to know or and didn't want to know about S corps, and you can read the book in about 20 minutes. And there's a whole slew of itty bitty books. My friend Susie Pruden put that idea together. She's got well over 100 authors now on all types of topics, from hypnotherapy to how to smoke marijuana to, you know, setting up your own S corp. And that's my story, folks. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, one of my favorite websites now. You should visit Bedrock Business Builders on YouTube and subscribe, because then you'll get a notice every time I share some of this important information. Once again, if you want to book a chat with me, Time with Joe. Tim's had plenty of chats. We've had a lot of uh, tax talks, business talks, and it's open. It's open for the time being while supplies last, folks. So God bless.